Hey everyone, welcome to our Facebook Live. Just going to give it another minute or so to let people log into Facebook, and then we will go ahead and get started with our metabolism boosting recipes for today. All right, so it is about 4 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, my name is Samantha McCarthy. I'm a registered dietitian at Cedardale Health and Fitness and also the director of nutrition and group exercise. So happy Nutrition Month. We are kicking off our month with lots of different events, including this Facebook Live video that will be available after today, so you can get all the recipes and see everything after in case you forget anything. So what we're going to do today is we are going to go through some different metabolism boosting recipes. I have 4 different recipes I'll be sharing with you that won't take very long. Most of them are pretty low cook and are not a lot of prep. I did about maybe 20 minutes of prep before this, maybe 30. So it's really pretty easy, simple recipes for boosting your metabolism. So we're going to do a few different things. I'm going to start off with some salmon. So here is some nice fresh salmon I just picked up at the grocery store. So we're going to get this going first so that way we can get it in the oven. The great thing about fish is that you don't have to cook it very long. So it's actually one of my favorite weekday recipes is to do some kind of fish, whether it's salmon, a whitefish, shrimp, something like that, because it's so quick to cook. So if you don't have a lot of time during the weeknights, like most families, it's pretty easy to throw on the table. So I've got a nice fillet of salmon here. So I'm going to just chop it up into smaller pieces. So for my family, there's 2 adults and 2 very small children. For those of you who know me, I have a 1 and a 4-year-old. They're at school right now, if you are wondering where they are and you're missing them and have seen them in other videos. My 1.5-year-old is a little, he's a boy, so he's a little wild. So I thought it was probably safer for us to not have him on the call today so that I can focus on cooking with you guys. All right, so I'm cutting this into 4 small pieces. So a couple that will be for the little ones, and then 2 larger ones that will be for my husband and myself. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put a little barbecue seasoning blend on this. Now, if you're wondering why salmon is a metabolism boosting recipe, well, salmon is an excellent source of protein, and protein is really good to help boost your metabolism. And the reason for that is because protein takes a lot for your body to break down. So it actually requires a little bit more energy than fat and carbohydrates to break down protein. Therefore, it's going to boost your metabolism. You're going to end up burning more calories when you eat more protein. So that's always a plus, right? Okay, so I've got my baking dish ready. I have a little bit of parchment paper on there so the fish does not stick. So we're going to place the fish right onto the parchment paper. I have already preheated my oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the temperature I always cook salmon at if I'm cooking it in the oven, which most of the time I do cook salmon in the oven. I might sear it on the pan to get a nice little char on it and then finish it in the oven because salmon tends to be a little bit thicker. But most of the time I am just throwing it right in the oven with some kind of spice or marinade or something like that. So the barbecue seasoning blend that we're going to throw on the salmon is really delicious, and you can use it for so many different things. So the recipe actually makes quite a bit of the barbecue seasoning blend. So I'll save it for some other things. So it looks like this. I've already got it created. So as you can see, it's about half a cup of different spices. So it's going to last a while. You can put it on chicken, you can put it on tacos, you could put it on steak, really whatever. So there's a few different ingredients in this. We have a little bit of chili powder in there. We have paprika, we have onion powder, garlic powder, a little dash of cayenne pepper for a little bit of spice. If you don't like it spicy, you don't have to put that in there. And then a little bit of salt in there. And the last ingredient is coconut sugar. So of course, any barbecue seasoning, just like barbecue sauce or something, has a little bit of sweetness to it many times. So that's where the coconut sugar comes in. The reason we use coconut sugar here is it's a little bit more coarse than regular table sugar. So that will be a little bit better for a spice blend. So I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit all over my salmon. So let me make sure you guys can see this as I do it. And what I love about this seasoning blend is there's not a ton of salt in here. So for this whole container, which like I said is about half a cup of spices, there's only 1 teaspoon of salt. So it's not a ton. When you spread it over multiple uses, it's going to last a lot because there's a ton of it. And then it's not super salty. You can adjust to taste, of course. If you like things a little bit saltier, you can. So I'm just sprinkling this right on the top of the salmon. And then I'm going to give it a good rub so it really sticks in. And then we're just going to throw that right in the oven. Salmon like this, it's kind of, I'd say, medium thickness compared to what I would normally get. It's not as thick as some of the other things I usually get at the store. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook this for about 10 to 12 minutes. And then we're going to put a little salad on top of it, which we'll make in just a moment. So I'm going to throw this in the oven. So that is in the oven. So now we're going to make a little avocado topping to go on that salmon, which will just make a really nice fresh tasting salmon. And of course you have avocado with some healthy fats in there, and we have some additional spices and things to go into that avocado topping, which is really, really nice. So I've got my bowl here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add a few different things. Now, if you are not comfortable cutting avocados, I have this lovely tool that I found, I think on Amazon or something, I don't know, something like that. It's really great for cutting avocados. It's plastic, so you're not going to, it's less likely that you're going to cut yourself. It's a little nerve-wracking to cut with a big sharp knife because once you get into the skin, it's very slippery. So it's really simple. You just go cut right around the core of the avocado. And then you can pull it apart, and this avocado is looking pretty perfect, which is shocking this time of year in the Northeast. And then the other side of the avocado slicer has this little, I guess this little circle here, and it has some metal pieces, which you're going to grab the core of the avocado with. So again, you won't be risking your life trying to cut it out and maybe cut off a finger or something like that. And then I'm just going to toss it right in my compost. Okay, so once you have the avocado, I'm going to go ahead and score it. So I'm just going to make little cubes with it. So as I score it, I can use the same slicer that I have here, and I'm just going to make maybe like 1/2 inch cubes. Okay, and from there, I'm just going to use my spoon. I'm going to scoop that right out and drop it right into the bowl. And we'll do that with both sides of the avocados. We'll use the whole avocado for this. You never know what you're going to get with avocado this time of year. So I'm quite happy that I was able to find a good ripe avocado in Market Baskets. Sometimes it can take over a week to ripen, which is just crazy. All right, so I've got my avocado in the bowl. So now I'm going to add red onions. So I've already diced them so you guys wouldn't see me cry on the Facebook Live because dicing onions is really challenging for me. So I have a bunch in here. I'm not going to use all of these. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit in. I don't like a super strong raw onion taste. I don't know about you. Some people do. So I'm just going to use a little bit there so it's not too overpowering. And then, of course, lots of cilantro in there. So cilantro will add a nice freshness to it. So I'm just going to dump this in here. It's about 4-ish tablespoons or so. So I'm going to dump it right in there, okay? And then we're going to add a little bit of oil and a little bit of lime juice as well. So this recipe calls for 4 tablespoons of olive oil. So I'm going to go ahead and measure that out and dump it into the bowl along with my avocado, cilantro, and red onions. And then we're going to juice the lime. So it calls for about 4 tablespoons of lime juice, which is, depending on the size of the lime, that's going to be maybe 1, 2-ish limes or so, and depending on how juicy it is. So what I do when I juice my lemons and my limes is I cut them in half. So first you want to cut off the end, the seed on the end, and then I cut it in half so I can put it right into my juicer. And we're going to go ahead and just squeeze it right in there. I'm going to use two halves, so 1 whole lime. And I'm going to squeeze it right in there. And then we'll sprinkle it with a little bit of salt. And then you're going to have the topping for your salmon. Pretty simple, pretty easy to make. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and mix this together. You can see the juice of the lime and the lemon at the bottom. Okay, and now mixing that in, I'm just gonna sprinkle with a little bit of salt, just for a little flavor, and then of course you can add some salt, because don't forget, you do have a little bit of salt in the seasoning blend that's on the salmon already, so you don't wanna get too crazy with the salt here and make it overly salty. Okay, so just a little sprinkle there. All right, and we're gonna let that sit until our salmon is ready, and then we'll be able to top that and have our delicious salmon. Okay, all right, so what we're going to have with the salmon is we're going to make a little bit of it's a quick salad. The recipe calls for arugula, but arugula isn't a favorite of a lot of people because it can be a little spicy, a little flavorful. So we're just going to use regular mixed greens, and then we're going to make our own dressing. So we're also going to make a cilantro lime dressing. So it coordinates well with the salmon because it has some of the similar flavors and a nice freshness to it. Very easy. If you've never made your own dressing at home, I highly suggest you do it because you can get rid of a lot of the junk that ends up being in store-bought dressing, a lot of the excess salts, the excess maybe sugar, preservatives, whatever it is. So it's a really great, and it just tastes better to have those fresh, the fresh dressings. All right, so the recipe calls for 1 clove of garlic. Now, we're going to be using the food processor to make this, so I'm just going to chop up the garlic a little bit. You don't have to spend too much time dicing it or doing anything crazy because the food processor will do a lot of that for you, which is nice. And that makes it very quick and easy to do. So I've already got my garlic peeled and ready to go. So we're going to drop that right into the food processor. And the recipe, since it's a cilantro lime dressing, of course calls for a bunch of cilantro. So I've already removed the cilantro from the stems. I've done a little bit of chopping to it, which you don't need to do. You can just throw it right into your food processor. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to add some lime, of course, because it's a cilantro lime dressing. So this one calls for the juice of 2 full limes. So that's what I'm going to use. So again, I've already chopped my limes. I'm going to grab my juicer and I'm going to put it right into the food processor, which once I get going, I'll put the food processor into view so you guys can all see it. I just have a very basic food processor, nothing fancy, nothing crazy. It has worked fine for me. I know there's a lot of different ones that are really expensive out there. You don't have to get a crazy expensive one. I've used this to make all the baby food for my little ones. It's lasted just fine. And it can also do a little bit of shredding and dicing of vegetables, which is nice too. Okay, so I've got all my lime juice into the food processor, so that is ready to go. So the other things that we're gonna add into there is, of course, some oil. So you gotta have a little fat, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of pepper as well, which are just going to be to taste. So I'm not gonna add too much salt and pepper to start. Once I taste the dressing, I'll add more, and you can flavor it as you like as well. So for the oil, we need 4 tablespoons of olive oil. Again, where did my tablespoon measure go? I think I put it in the sink. That's all right, we'll use this one. I have multiple. All right, so 4 tablespoons. You could also measure out 1/4 cup, whatever works for you. I just have the tablespoon measurements right here, so I'll use these. So we've got nice olive oil. You can really use any type of your favorite flavorful oil here. I have avocado oil, but I use that mostly for cooking because it holds up to high heat better. And I like olive oil best for dressings because it does have a nice flavor to it. All right, so I put the olive oil in there. I'm just going to use some good old salt. I'm going to sprinkle that, a little bit of salt into the food processor. Again, I'm not putting much, just a little sprinkle for now to bring out some of the flavor. And then just a pinch of black pepper as well. If you like it a little bit spicier, you can add a little bit more, whatever, depends on what you like. All right. So I've got those ingredients in there, so that's pretty much it. That's all we're putting into this dressing. It's simple. We've got the olive oil, we've got the lime juice, the cilantro, garlic, salt, pepper, and we're ready to go. So now you can see what my food processor looks like. So I've got all the yummy ingredients in there. That took me just a couple minutes to throw together because the food processor does a lot of the processing for you, which is even better. So we're gonna go ahead and blend that up. And you wanna blend it until it's nice and creamy. and that way it's ready to go. You won't have like big chunks of garlic or big chunks of cilantro in there. It'll be all set. So a little loud. Beautiful. Okay. So you can blend it as much as you wish. You can see here it's got a little bit of some texture to it, but mostly creamy. Little chunks of cilantro still in there, but that's okay with me because I love cilantro. But you base it on what you like. So if you want those chunks of cilantro cooked a little bit more, you can certainly blend it a little bit more. All right, so I've got my dressing ready. So we're gonna throw that on some nice leafy greens for our salad. And then when our salmon is ready in just over 2 minutes, we'll be good to go with that. So we've made 3 things so far. We have the barbecue seasoning blend. We've made, almost made the salmon, and then we're gonna put the salmon together, or the salad together. Last thing we're gonna do is a little quick breakfast recipe. But let's get the salad ready. So like I said, the recipe calls for arugula, but arugula isn't a favorite in my house. I love it, but the kids don't. So I love to use the Little Leaf Farms, which is available at the grocery stores around here. I love it because it lasts forever. It's nice and crispy. It's super easy. All you have to do is pull it out, put it into a bowl, and you're ready to go. And we'll throw the dressing right on top of that. Now you could put anything that you want on the salad. If you have cucumbers, tomatoes, whatever laid around, you could certainly put that, some peppers, maybe a sprinkle of cheese if you'd like, whatever suits your fancy, or you could just stay basic and do your salad with a little bit of dressing and you'll be good to go. So here are the leafy greens here, got a little bit of color with some of the purples in here. It's a really nice salad mix if you've never used it before. I definitely like it because I like that crunch to it. It's not as boring. So I'm going to take just a little bit of my dressing and sprinkle it on. I don't want to use this whole thing that we made. If you're serving for a bigger party, you certainly could. But with just a few of us and 2 small mouths, although they eat more than it looks like they could eat, I'm not going to use a ton of it. I don't like a ton of dressing either on my salad, so I'm just going to drizzle it on the greens, and that should be good. And this is, with all the cilantro in there and the lime juice, it's pretty strong, so it packs a big punch, so you don't need a ton. You don't need to douse the greens in the dressing. It's gonna have a pretty big flavor. All right, so there's my basic salad. Quick, we did that all in probably about 15 minutes. Like I said, I didn't prep much before, just a little bit to get the barbecue seasoning blend ready and chop some of the cilantro and the onions. But other than that, we did pretty much everything here. Very quick, simple, and delicious, and is really good to help boost your metabolism. So the next recipe that we're gonna make is a breakfast one, which has some oats and some chia seeds in it. So it looks like the salmon is about ready, and it smells delicious with the barbecue seasoning blend on it. So you can see it's a little bit light pink on the outside. The barbecue seasoning blend has charred up a little bit, and it just looks perfect. So I'm gonna let that sit for a moment. We're gonna do our breakfast recipe, and then we'll add all of these things together. Okay, so for our breakfast recipe, we're using oats and chia seeds as the base, and it's an overnight oats type of recipe, which if you've never done it before, it is really simple, and it's great to wake up in the morning and have breakfast already completed for you. And it's very quick to make. Oats are amazing for your metabolism for a couple of different reasons. They've got what's called resistant starch in them, which is very difficult for your body to break down. It doesn't really digest and metabolize in the body, so it requires a little bit of energy to get it through and eventually to excretion. So oats are great for that, but they're also a great source of iron, selenium, and zinc, and all of these things help support a healthy thyroid. And a healthy thyroid is absolutely essential for your metabolism because your thyroid really controls your metabolism. So if that is not functioning as it should, your metabolism tends to slow down, and then that can lead to weight gain and a whole host of other health issues as well. So what we're gonna do for the overnight oats is very simple. So you wanna start with some type of a jar, like a mason jar like this, or you could use a bowl. It's just gonna be a little bit hard to shake it up and mix all the ingredients, but it could be done. So I'm gonna start with my mason jar, and then the recipe is going to be 1/3 cup of dry oats. So I have just my good old-fashioned oats here. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Steel cut oats, while they are very nutritious, they don't work well for overnight oats in my experience. So you definitely want to get the old-fashioned oats. So I'm going to take 1/3 cup of the oats, and I'm just going to drop it right into the mason jar. And then with that, I'm going to add some chia seeds. So chia seeds are a great source of fiber and also a little bit of resistant starch in there too, and also healthy fats. So chia seeds do pack a big nutritional punch. So we're going to put a tablespoon of the chia seeds into this. You could add more if you want, but if you've never had chia seeds before and you don't eat a high fiber diet right now, I just suggest you stick with 1 tablespoon. That is more than enough. All right, so I've got that in there. I'm also going to put a little sprinkle of maple syrup just for a little sweetness in there. And it's only a teaspoon that you want to throw in there, so it doesn't need to be a ton. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit there. Okay, that's probably about a teaspoon. And then some vanilla extract as well. So the recipe does call for a teaspoon, or sorry, 3/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in as well. Okay, those are the base ingredients, and then we need to add some kind of liquid in there for all of the oats and the chia seeds to absorb, and then they bulk up overnight. So what I'm going to use is just good old regular milk, but you could use any kind of milk. You could use oat milk, you could use almond milk, soy milk, whatever it is that you prefer for milk. So I just have good old organic low-fat milk. So it calls for 1 cup of milk. So I'm going to go ahead and just add that in. My mason jar does have measuring lines on there, so I'm just going to estimate about 1 cup as I add that in. A little bit more than 1 cup because I have some dry ingredients in there. All right, so I've got that. Now I'm going to cover it. I'm going to shake it up and then put it in the fridge, and that's it. Okay, so beautiful, nice little mason jar, simple. Make sure it's tight before you shake it up so you don't spill it everywhere. Right, so now all the ingredients are mixing together here. So I've got my mason jar, oats, and chia seeds. So you want to let this sit overnight. So I have already done that with a different one from earlier this morning. So it's been about 9-ish hours, so about overnight. I let the oats and the chia seeds sit in the mason jar in the fridge. So you can see when you open it up, okay, it is a little bit on the thicker side. Let me grab a spoon. And you could let it sit longer than what I did. So it starts to become pretty thick the longer that you let it sit, because the oats and the chia seeds will start to expand and absorb all that liquid, just like they would oats if you cooked them with hot water. They expand and they get all that water. So now I have this, and what you want to do in the morning, if you want, and you don't have to do this, it's totally up to you, but we top it with some fruit. So you can add berries, you can add strawberries, you can add banana. The recipe calls for banana and strawberries, so I'm just going to chop up a little bit of this banana and a little bit of the strawberries and top it on there, and then I'll have my overnight oats. Super easy. That took us, what, maybe a minute or two to build and put together, and then you let it sit overnight. And for ease, or it's for convenience in the morning, you could use frozen fruits. So whether they're frozen strawberries, blueberries, the tropical mix that you can get, whatever it is that you like for flavors. And I'm just going to put them right into the mason jar, along with a few strawberries, whatever it is you like. You can also add nuts in here if you like nuts. That will add a nice little crunchy texture to it and a little bit more protein to help boost the metabolism. So probably just going to do 2 to 3 strawberries. They're a little bit on the smaller side from what I found at the store. So I'm just going to slice them in. You can cut them any way you like. If you want them more bite-sized, you can do that. Drop that right in there. All right. So now I have a delicious breakfast that took me just a couple minutes to put together. Really just time is the biggest thing. So I've got the strawberries, the bananas, it smells delicious. And I'm gonna go ahead and eat this after because it looks really yummy. So a great breakfast. Breakfast is really important to get the metabolism going, so I always recommend you have breakfast. Do not skip it. It's really important. Smaller, frequent meals throughout the day are great for your metabolism, so you want to make sure you're doing that as well. All right, lastly, let's put together our meal. So I'm going to grab a plate. I'm going to get my salmon on it, and we'll plate our salad as well and put the avocado salad on top, and we will be good to go. Okay, so you can see the delicious salmon here. Now, don't forget we made this avocado salad, so I'm going to throw that on there and have that nice cilantro, avocado, lime oil flavor to it. It's going to mesh so well with the salmon. And then you just put a little bit of your salad on it as well. I got some tongs over here. Again, with that nice dressing that we made. And here we go. We've got a beautiful and delicious meal, whether it be lunch or whether it be your dinner, in about 25 minutes. So not too bad, right? So it doesn't have to take too long to make these yummy, delicious recipes in the kitchen and help boost your metabolism. So I hope you enjoyed our little cooking demo today. If you want to learn more about metabolism boosting recipes and how to get your metabolism going, we just launched our brand new online nutrition and culinary education course today. It's called Fire Up Your Metabolism. It's only $45. It's a 4-week course where you learn all about how to boost your metabolism, not only through nutrition, but also through behavior change and exercise and other things. So I highly recommend check that out. Just go to our website, cedardale.net, and under the Nutrition and Wellness tab, you will find it. And then check out our Facebook and our Instagram throughout the entire month. We're going to be releasing lots of nutrition tips, other recipes. Jamie's going to do a Instagram reel at the end of the month. I have a nutrition lecture next week, March 8th. And all of these are great ways to learn a little bit more about nutrition. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining me. See you all at the club very soon. Bye.